So, when does something mean something else? Is that right? If you've taken high school English, you've heard of metaphor. But how would you possibly apply it to academic writing? I'm so glad you asked. Yes, one definition for metaphor is poetically calling things something else, but I think that's a little bit limiting because metaphor isn't just limited to poetry. It's not even just limited to art. Metaphor is all around us. It's the way we understand really complex things by relating it to something that we know. It's the best way to connect new knowledge to the knowledge we already have. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. There's a book called How the Leopard Found Its Spots by an evolutionary biologist where he spends a good chapter talking about all the ways that science is also dependent on metaphor. If you're able to connect two bits of knowledge, one that's expected to one that's unexpected, it will help the audience learn the unexpected one. And that's the way we're talking about this. So, before we talk about the metaphor assignment, which I'm very curious to look through all your answers and see what you came up with, I'm going to give you two examples from my own life. I think I've mentioned before that I part time taught for a little while. When I finally got my full time job, I wanted to celebrate. I wanted to do something special. And that special thing was get a couch. Because when I was a grad student, I was broke as hell. I'm sure you can relate. Um, for years, the only new furniture I got was furniture that found in a garbage can sitting by the side of the road or something a friend of mine was about to throw away. I got to be an expert at loading and unloading couches up to my third floor apartment, as much as it sucked. But now that I was an adult with an adult job, I wanted to get a good couch. So I went to Furniture Row. If you learn nothing else from me, if this is the only thing you take with you, never shop at Furniture Row. It's. Ugh. I bought what looked like a nice leather couch that was very comfortable. Came with a 2-year warranty. I'm like, cool. I can afford it too. How nice. So I got it. I had them deliver it. We wedged it into the apartment. Everything was going good. Then, right when we hit the 2-year mark, right after the warranty ran out, it started to peel. I thought it was good leather. Apparently, it was the cheapest leather you could possibly find. It started to peel off, and it got to be a little bit annoying. My daughter, when she was a baby, I found myself having to pick little bits of couch off of her. It was horrible. I went to all this effort to get a good couch, and what I ended up with after 2 years was this. This isn't actually a picture of my couch. I forgot to take one, but this is one I found online, which isn't quite as bad as mine was. Yeah, it's pretty nasty. And this couch was a metaphor for my life at that point. I'm sure you're asking yourself, what the hell? So let me explain. In the most basic terms, I graduated thinking that I was done at an ultimate level and I was now an adult. So I went and got an adult thing, and it fell apart on me. Maybe I wasn't so much of an adult as I thought. You see the connection there? There's a very visual attitude with the couch that you can see, and it hooks into explaining my mood at the time. And because I have depression, I just naturally thought that, okay, yeah, this is another long event and how the world is formed against me, and I'll never be able to grow up and be an adult, blah, 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 blah. So that's one example. For the other example, I have to tell you that I like Lego. I had Lego growing up as a kid, and one of the main reasons I was excited to have a child of my own was so I could play with Lego again. I don't know if you've been able to see it on the videos, but on my right arm, I have a very big Lego-centric tattoo covering up my entire forearm, both sides. One year before school started, I wanted to get myself I was getting myself school supplies, and I got myself a Lego pencil case. It was cool, and it actually lasted for a few years. But then one year it broke on me and refused to close, and I didn't want to go out and get another one. I figured I'll do what all the hipsters do and upcycle something. You know, get something that you're not using and use it for a new purpose. That's nice, huh? It was a trend for a while. So I found an old insulated coffee mug that I had never actually used. And I thought, hey, pencil case. Cool, huh? I'm being hip. Well, the first class, I tried to take a drink out of my pencil case. And the second class, I threw my pencils into my water bottle. And that was a metaphor for my life. Again, how? Well, think about it. I tried to do something that I thought would be cool, and it turned out that I screwed it up. There you go. Metaphor tends to work as a good way to describe difficult stuff. Serious talk now. I got a degree in culture studies, and my specialty was media studies, and I had a bunch of good articles out. And my wife introduced me to a TV show. I didn't want to watch a new TV show. I had way too much stuff going on, but I sat down and watched the first episode of the TV show House. And I got hooked. You know, it's like whenever you think you're too busy, somebody is going to shove, hey, here's another time killer for you. House, for those of you who don't remember it, went on for like 7 years about a very good doctor, a diagnosis specialist, who was super genius and could figure out what was wrong with anybody when no one else could. The only thing was, he was a jerk. His bosses didn't really like him. The patients kind of hated him. He was abusive to his staff. Plus, he was a Vicodin addict. It was a good anti-hero TV show. After 3 years, there's something here. I think I want to write a paper about this. So I did what you do when you write a paper, is I went to the library and looked to see what I could find written on the TV show House. And for the first 4 or 5 years, it was the highest rated show on television. Period. And that was in America, but it was also very highly rated over in Europe, too. So at the end of year 3, I went to do my research, and I found out that not a single person academically had written anything about this show. I found a few short reviews, a few short entertainment pieces. There were a few newspaper columnists who wanted to bring out the connection between Dr. House and Sherlock Holmes. He's a medical detective. And, yeah, but it wasn't the best way, I thought, to think about that show. Because while it might have aped some of the tropes of detective fiction, it didn't really have that feeling. I couldn't write a paper comparing my take to other scholarship because there was no scholarship. And you need evidence. So I thought about it for a while, and I found out that what I really needed to do was use a metaphor. House wasn't a Sherlock Holmes character. He was a superhero. He had a secret power that no one else could possibly match. But he still had to work within a system. And the people in that system didn't like him all that much, but they kind of needed him because no one else could do the stuff he did. Which, if you think about it, is exactly like superhero fiction. Would you want to have Batman as a neighbor? I mean, aside from the fact that bad guys would be coming over all the time and he'd be tearing through the yard and all that, I think I just have an inferiority complex living next to Batman. I like bats, but not that much. Would you want to have Superman as your neighbor? Imagine if you had a block party, you could not do anything to impress anyone in that neighborhood because Superman was there. You're like, excuse me, Superman, your grass is a little bit long. Okay, I'll take care of that. Then he shoots laser beams out of his eyes and gets the yard looking perfectly. He's like, we need some party decoration. So he flies down to Brazil to Carnival and comes back with a bunch of stuff. And everyone's like, yay, Superman. And you're like, good God. I have enough problems keeping up with John's yard to my right, let alone Superman to my left. There's the other aspect, though, that the very existence of superheroes means that the cops cannot take care of crime. If the police in Gotham City were any good, would you need Batman? Metropolis, cops can't do a damn thing. They have to have a pretty much invincible guy to take over. So having these guys there made it just clear that how inept we were as a people. We needed to have someone who is much better than us. And usually when we have people who are much better than us who have to take care of us, we tend to end up resenting it a little bit. This was about the time when Marvel Comics moved on to their Civil War storyline. You've probably seen the Avenger movies, which were loosely based on it, but there was a tragedy involving a superhero battle where some innocents got killed and the government stepped in and imposed a superhero registration act. We are not going to let vigilantes wander our streets anymore. They have to file proper paperwork and all that. And of course, things went badly from that point onward. This all describes a lot about the TV show House. House was a guy who worked in a hospital where no one else could do what he could do. And far from liking him for that, everyone kind of resented him. People had to work with him to a certain degree, but they didn't really want to. They just had to. There's a connection there. Ultimately, the paper ended up about the role of experts within organizations. And I think there's a lot of stuff we could talk about if we had the time. I'm firmly convinced that most Americans don't really like smart people all that much. And they accuse them of making up knowledge for their own purposes because they feel jealous in some way. I'm not going to say if there's any connection between that and how our current government has dealt with the COVID situation, but there you go. By bringing in superhero fiction, I was able to talk about the TV show House. I could relate House to superhero scholarship because there was a lot of superhero scholarship. There was not anything on House. As an aside, when you're talking about research, this is something to keep in mind. It doesn't have to be about your same subject as long as you can make it fit your argument, and metaphor is a great way of doing that. Which brings us to the Metaphor 1 assignment. This was the Charge of the Light Brigade, a battle in the Crimean War where England sent people to their death against the Russians. There was no way the English could possibly win. Everyone on the ground knew that they could not possibly win and they were most likely going to die because someone up above wasn't really paying attention and didn't think things through. What did these soldiers do, knowing that they would die if they followed their orders? They followed their orders and charged ahead anyway. And they were put up as the paragon of British masculinity. Duty above all, duty to the realm above all, even their own lives. They were publicly celebrated, and Charge of the Light Brigade, the poem, was written as a celebration of these guys. The line, "Forward the Light Brigade, was there a man dismayed?" Not though the soldiers knew someone had blundered. Theirs was not to make reply, theirs was not to reason why, theirs was but to do or die. Into the valley of the death rode the 600. Yeah, everyone knew it was screwed up, but it wasn't their job to question orders. They had to serve their land by following their orders. I hope that people think a little bit more than that, but there you go. That was what they wanted. I think about this stanza an awful lot, but particularly at the beginning of the year, because they make me jump through any number of hoops that really serve no purpose whatsoever. I have to do online training on Title IX and its ramifications, which is good and fine, but I have to do it again this year. I had to do it the last 2 years. Last year it was the exact same stuff as it was the year before, the exact same program. And my wife just finished this year's, and she said that was also the same as last year's and the year before. Um, so why did we have to sit through it? Is it worth questioning it? Not for me. No one's ever going to give me a satisfactory answer, so I put my head down. Mine is not to make a reply. Mine is not to reason why, but to do or die. Follow orders, because what else are you going to do? Questioning them does no good. And that's how I interpret this. That's the metaphor I use. The charge of the light brigade is a metaphor for whenever I have to do stupid crap at work. I'm really curious to see what yours are. Metaphor has many benefits for the academic writer. Most things involve metaphor in some shape or form. And it's a real truism that metaphor can help you explain complex ideas by relating it to things that the reader doesn't think are so complex. The other real benefit of it is that it gives you, as a writer, the opportunity to broaden your scope of resources for academic sources, research, so on and so forth. What I mean is that if you're comparing thing A to thing B being the thing that everyone already understands, you can also compare thing A to the scholarship on thing B. As long as you make it clear where it fits and where it doesn't, you're golden. See you in the next video.